Welcome back to RPG PhD. I'm Dr. Ben, and this is part 4 of our Warhammer the Old World roleplay series. Today, we're diving into the arcane arts, how spellcasting works, why wizards are always a hair's breadth from disaster, and how the winds of magic can blow your enemies, or you, into oblivion. Let's get started. In Warhammer the Old World, magic isn't a simple point-and-shoot ability. It's a risky, layered process that rewards careful timing and punishes recklessness. When a wizard wants to cast a spell, they make what's called a casting test, which is a special type of exacting willpower test. You need to gather a number of successes equal to the spell's casting value. And each test you make burns one of your actions. But here's the twist. You don't declare which spell you're casting until you've accumulated enough successes to unleash it. You only declare which lore of magic you're drawing from. This means you can build up power turn after turn and adapt to the situation at the risk of something going horribly wrong. Once you've made a casting test, if you have enough successes on the exacting test to match or exceed that spell's casting value, you may choose to cast it immediately. If you do so, you resolve the spell's effects and lose all successes you've accumulated on your casting test so far. The next spell you cast must be started from scratch. Holding on to arcane power is inherently dangerous, especially if you are not actively channeling it into a spell. Once you have begun casting a spell, you must continue to do so, or add one miscast die for each casting test you skip. If you wish to end your attempts to cast a spell prematurely, you may do so, but in so doing you suffer a miscast, rolling all the dice in your miscast pool. Once a wizard has begun to gather power, they would be well advised to find something useful to do with it. Not all successes are equal. The potency of your spell, how powerful its effect will be, is determined by the number of successes you rolled on your final casting test before you unleash the spell. So you can rack up successes over several turns, but if your last roll is weak, the spell's potency might suffer. This introduces a tactical choice. Do you cast now with low potency or gamble on a better roll next turn and risk a magical backlash? The game even encourages wizards to wait for it, timing their spells for the perfect moment, though every delay stacks the odds against them. Shrewd wizards will wait until the winds of magic blow in their favor before unleashing a crucial spell. Let's talk about miscasts, because Warhammer loves turning magic into a ticking time bomb. When casting a spell, make a note of any die which shows a 9. These dice are immediately added to your miscast pool. You may not re-roll them, even if the test is glorious. If, after a casting test, the number of dice in your miscast pool exceeds your level in the wizard talent, this triggers a miscast. You'll roll all dice in your miscast pool, add them up, and consult the miscast table. Best case, you might get singed and keep casting. Worst case, reality bends, people die, and you become a cautionary tale. If you achieved enough successes on your casting test to cast a spell, you may do so before rolling on the miscast table, but you are not required to. Some results on the miscast table will allow you to continue casting, keeping all the accumulated successes you have so far. If a result would end your attempt to cast a spell, this will be noted on the miscast table. When your miscast pool is equal to your wizard level, the winds of magic are visibly spiraling out of control. Think crackling lightning, swirling shadows, or flames licking the air around you. It's dramatic, and it makes you a magnet for witch hunters who recognize when a wizard is one bad roll away from catastrophe. Miscast dice don't just vanish. If combat ends or you get a moment to breathe, you can safely release the magic and clear your pool. Otherwise, you'll need to take a recover action to shed miscast dice during battle, one at a time. Until you do, you're a walking arcane hazard. Want to get risky? You can mix the wins by adding bonus dice to your casting test before you roll. Each bonus die you add also adds a die to your miscast pool. This is how wizards tap into Dahar, the corrupted dark magic, for a surge of raw power. But the more dice you stack, the more likely your spell becomes a magical grenade with your face on it. Before rolling any dice, a human wizard may choose to add any number of bonus dice to a casting test. However, for each die added in this way, they must add one die to their miscast pool. The normal limits on how many bonus dice you can gain on a test apply. After the casting test has been made, check for a miscast as usual. Armor and bulky items like shields make spell casting harder. If you're wearing heavy gear or holding something unwieldy, your casting tests are always considered grim. Alright, so you've lost control. The dice gods have betrayed you, and your miscast pool has exceeded your wizard level. It's time to roll on the miscast table and see just how bad things are about to get. You'll roll all dice in your miscast pool, add up the results, and consult the table. Effects range from minor magical hiccups to cataclysmic disasters. Let's look at some highlights. A low roll might cause everyone nearby to feel an unsettling sense of loss or nausea. As you go higher, things get weirder. Coins and candles turning into scuttling creatures, food spoiling, or eerie chittering noises haunting you for days. Get unlucky and you might teleport randomly, lose your ability to lie, or be cursed with seeing only the winds of magic, blind to the real world. At the top of the table, reality splits. You might summon a demon or open a rift to the realm of chaos. Roll a 38 or more and you're literally ripped apart and scattered across the battlefield. While the core table is universal, game masters are of course encouraged to tweak the flavor of these mishaps to match the lore of magic the wizard is using. A necromancer's miscast will feel very different from an elementalist's. Let's break down the anatomy of a spell, the key components that define every spell in the old world RPG. No matter how wildly different their effects, every spell shares these common elements. Casting value, or CV. This is the spell's difficulty rating, the number of successes you need to accumulate on your casting test to cast the spell. Low CV spells are quick and reliable. High CV spells might take several rounds of focused effort, but they're capable of game-changing effects. Importantly, there are no level restrictions beyond the basics. As long as you have at least one level in the wizard talent and know the correct lore of magic, you can attempt to learn or cast any spell, no matter its casting value. Ambitious apprentices, beware. Target. Every spell needs a valid target. This might be self for protective wards or buffs, creature for blasting or charming foes, zone for area of effect spells, or object for things like enchanting or shattering items. If you don't have a valid target, the spell fizzles. Range. Range defines how far your spell can reach. Duration. Duration tells you how long the spell's effects last. It might be a few seconds, several rounds, or the entire battle. A duration of battle means it lasts long enough to cover the immediate conflict or scenario, though wizards will need to recast or maintain spells if the situation drags on. An effect. This is what occurs when the spell is successfully cast. Most wizards rely on formal spells, rituals, and incantations that have been tested, documented, and passed down through grimoires. They represent the accumulated knowledge of generations of spellcasters. Formal spells are safer, predictable to a degree, and often easier for lower-level wizards to perform powerful effects. However, high casting values mean that even these tried-and-true spells carry the ever-present risk of miscasts. Your character may cast any formal spell they have memorized, or, if they can read and write, which they have transcribed into their own grimoire. Casting a spell from a grimoire in the midst of combat is dangerous, as the grimoire must be held open in one hand, and an unwary wizard may be disarmed. Most wizards take the time to memorize a few useful spells just in case. Each wizard records spells in their own way, and spells cast from an unfamiliar grimoire are always grim until you take the formalized spell endeavor to copy it into your own grimoire. Grimoires themselves are rare and valuable, often traded in secret or auctioned off to the highest bidder. Finding one might become an adventure all its own. For those brave or foolish enough, there's improvised spellcasting. This is where a wizard channels raw magic on the fly, inventing effects in the moment. It's flexible, creative, and very risky. Improvised spells allow you to bend the winds of magic to achieve nearly any effect you can imagine, as long as it fits the theme of your chosen lore. The game master and player collaborate to define the spell's effect using the improvised spell casting value table to determine its difficulty. You must have the appropriate wizard level to achieve the effect you desire. The greater the effect, the better an understanding required. These effects are broken into various categories, as explained in the improvised spell casting value table. The range of an improvised spell is close if the spell inflicts harm, or short if not. The casting value of improvised spells is always higher than a formal spell, but they allow wizards far greater flexibility. This can be further increased by ambitious wizards attempting to increase the range of a spell, the number of targets it affects, or its duration. The effects described below are cumulative, so choosing two options from the +2 row adds a total of +4 casting value. If an effect requires you to double the casting value of a spell, do so after all other modifiers have been applied. Effects are categorized as petty. This is a CV of 2. You might light a flame, like an elementalist, or throw a stone as fast as a bullet, if you were using battle magic. Typical damage is 4 plus potency to a single target, or you might inflict a condition. Requirements for this are wizard level 1. Cardinal would be CV4, burn with a touch like an elementalist, or vanish into shadows like an illusionist. Single target is 5 plus potency, 3 plus potency to a target and others in close range. May also inflict a condition, and requirements would be a wizard 2. Advance, this would be CV8, blast a group of enemies with battle magic, or raise an unprepared corpse as a zombie, necromancy. 6 plus potency to a single target, or 4 plus potency to all those in a zone. May inflict +1d on the wounds table, or multiple conditions. But that requires a level 3 wizard. And then Master, which is CV12 plus, freeze a lake solid elementalist, or create a monstrosity of undead flesh and bone as a necromancer. 8 plus potency, or 6 plus potency to all those in a zone, may inflict multiple additional wounds or several conditions. Requirements are wizard level 4. Modifiers increase the CV if you want greater range, area of effect, or extra conditions. Ambitious spells can even double their casting value for truly extraordinary feats. So if we take a look at the improvised spell modifier table, a casting value modifier of +1 increases range to medium or inflict a minor condition. A casting value of 2 increases the range to long, create a hazard, or inflict a serious condition. Casting value +3, increase the area of effect by 1 zone, or double the casting value is do something extraordinary. For groups that prefer a simpler approach, game masters can restrict improvised spells to downtime crafting and stick to formal spells during play. But if your table loves high-stakes magical improvisation, the system is where Warhammer's magic system really shines. Let's talk about the lores of magic. To understand magic in the old world, you need to grasp that there's no single universal truth about how it works. Instead, there are countless interpretations, different ways of perceiving and manipulating the winds of magic, each codified into what we call a lore of magic. At the high end of the spectrum, you have the High Elves of Ulthuan, practitioners of high magic, who claim to weave all 8 winds in perfect balance, achieving subtlety and precision beyond mortal reach. On the opposite end lies dark magic, the reckless mixing of the winds into a corrupt, unstable force known as Dahar. Dark magic is wildly potent, but the price of its power is corruption and catastrophe. Most human wizards in the Empire fall somewhere in between. They specialize in one of the 8 colored winds, but aren't above blending multiple winds for greater effects, though always at the risk of instability and miscasts. Each lore of magic represents not just a list of spells, but a world view. A lore of Fire Wizard, for instance, doesn't see the winds as abstract energies. They commune with elemental spirits of flame. An illusionist bends perceptions and shadow, often believing that reality itself is mutable. These laws are not just mechanical choices, they influence how your spells manifest, how your miscasts behave, and how other characters in the world perceive you. A necromancer's mishap might animate corpses, while an elementalist could cause sudden lightning storms. So let's take a little deeper dive at one of these. We're going to take a look at battle magic, the art of arcane warfare. So battle magic is the most direct and some might say the most reckless approach to spellcasting. In the Empire, magic is viewed with suspicion. Some wizards argue that magic could be a force for good, raising towers, nourishing crops, or even letting the dead speak their final words. Battle mages, however, make no such claims. They embrace magic's destructive potential, honing it into a weapon fit for the front lines. These spellcasters wield the winds of magic like artillery, crafting fireballs, shockwaves, and spells that rival the mightiest cannons of Nuln. They are beloved by generals and feared by their foes, but theirs is a perilous profession. They face the double-edged sword of battlefield death and arcane catastrophe. Battle magic isn't a single wind of magic, it's a pragmatic blending of winds, cherry-picking whatever energies best serve the caster's destructive purpose. Here are a few examples of formal spells of battle mages. These are some of the ones that they might commonly use. Curse of Cowardly Flight, casting value 3. You tap into the primal fears of your enemies, forcing an entire zone of foes to retreat. If they fail a willpower test, they become broken, fleeing in terror. Fireball, casting value 3. The classic. Summon a rolling ball of flame and hurl it at a creature within long range. It deals 5+ potency damage, knocking foes prone in the blast radius. Fleetfoot, casting value 2. Not every spell is about destruction. This spell accelerates allies, increasing their speed to fast for several turns. Perfect for flanking maneuvers or hasty retreats. Battle magic formal spells are designed for immediate impactful use on the battlefield. You won't find many utility spells here. These mages are here to break things. Now let's talk about improvised battle magic, destruction on demand. But the true artistry of battle mages lies in their improvisation. They're constantly experimenting, finding new ways to weaponize the winds in the chaos of combat. The effects of improvised battle magic are broadly characterized as creation, which is conjuring harmful phenomena, flames, mists, or binding flashes. Control, enhancing allies, disrupting enemies, or reinforcing defenses. Divination, sensing danger, detecting hidden weapons, or predicting attacks. As with all improvised spells, battle magic effects scale in difficulty. So a petty, casting value 2, creation, pluck a sword out of thin air, or send an enemy reeling with a touch. Control, sharpen a dull blade to a razor's edge, or cause a grubby uniform to become parade ready. Divine, determine if anyone within long range means you harm, or learn the location of the nearest person who wants you dead. And this would be for someone of Wizard level 1. Cardinal, CV4, creation, hurl a burst of force at a target at medium range, dealing 5+ potency damage, or clad yourself and your allies in gleaming armor. Control, lend a sudden burst of speed to your allies, or cause yourself to leap high into the air and land without injury. Divine, learn how skilled a target is. Advanced, this would be casting value 8. Creation, create a solid fortification from the surrounding materials, fit for a regiment to rest within, or conjure a cloud of choking smoke and putrescence. Control, dull the sound of a raging battle, or curse an enemy's armor to become brittle and their sword arm to weaken. Divine, learn the location of the nearest battle or the history of a weapon since its forging. And then Master, which is casting value 12+, creation, summon a wall of fire to burn or block one's foes, or conjure a mist to hide an entire army on the march. Control, allow a regiment to stand fast in the face of certain death, or cause all their weapons to ignite with magical flame. And Divine, learn the names of all those who want you dead, or the number of armed individuals in an entire province. These effects can be further modified, extending range, area of effect, or adding conditions, with each tweak increasing the spell's casting value. Improvised battle magic trades reliability for versatility, giving wizards the power to shape the battlefield in creative and often unpredictable ways. Elementalism, illusion, and necromancy are also covered in the book and have their own formalized spells and improvised spell charts. Alright, so now let's walk through a few examples of magic. So now we have Frederick versus the Bridge Raiders. Here's the setup. We have a wizard, Frederick von Ball. He's a wizard. Talent level 2. Lore is battle magic. He has a reason of 4 and a willpower of 3. Here's the scenes. So, goblins rush a broken bridge and ogre lumbers behind them. Just a reminder, a casting test is an exacting willpower test. You need total successes, which are equal to or greater than the casting value over one or more turns. Each casting test uses your action. And potency equals the successes on the final casting test before you cast. Any 9s rolled go to the miscast pool. If the pool exceeds wizard level, then you have a miscast. So round 1, he starts casting. He declares that he is casting from the lore of battle magic. He rolls a 1, a 2, a 7, and a 9. 2 successes. 1 die shows a 9, so his miscast pool is 1. Total successes so far, 2 of 3. Not enough to cast yet. Note, he hasn't named the specific spell yet, only the lore. Round 2, push to completion. So he does another roll. Rolls a 1, 6, 6, 7, and 1 success. No 9s, a total of 3 out of 3. Cast now? Yes. Potency equals 1. The successes on the last roll. Fireball. Formal. Here's the stat block. It has a casting value of 3. It has a target of creature. And it has a range of long and a duration of immediate. This is how it resolved. The target and all creatures in close range of the target take 5 plus potency. That equals 6 damage. Non-monstrosities go prone. And the aftermath is accumulated successes reset to 0. Miscast pool is still 1. That's not greater than his wizard level or 2, so no miscast yet. If Frederick had time, he could take a recover action later to reduce that lingering miscast die by 1. Let's look at spell 2, Fleetfoot. It's a formal spell. Stat block has a casting value of 2. Target is zone, range is long, duration is potency, turns. And his goal is to speed up allies to fast for a few turns. So, round 3. This time he's casting while burdened, which makes it grim. Under fire, Frederick snatches up a fallen shield, which is bulky. All casting tests are grim while he's holding it. So, now he rolls a 6, 5, 2, and 2. So now he rolls a 6, 5, a 2, and a 2, but because the test is grim, he rolls the 2 and the 2, getting a 1 and a 9. 1 success, and 1 die is 9. So miscast pool is now 2. Total successes so far is 1 out of 2. And now we get the Portent of Doom. The miscast pool equals the wizard level 2, so we get crackling, ominous signs surround him. So it's definitely witch hunter bait here. Round 4, he's going to mix the winds for a big finish. Frederick wants a stronger effect, and to wrap this up now, he drops the shield. Before rolling, he adds 2 bonus dice, and must add 2 dice to his miscast pool immediately. Now his miscast pool is 4. So he rolls a 3, a 3, a 6, and an 8. He gets 2 successes, no 9s, a total of 3 out of 2. He casts Fleetfoot first since he hit the casting value. The potency equals 2 from this final roll. Up to 2 allies in the target zone get speed fast for 2 turns. Now he has to make a miscast check. Pool 4, because that's more than 2 miscast triggers. His miscast rolls, he rolls 4 dice, and he adds them up. 6, 3, 2, and 3, that's a 14. That results on a 13, 14. Hideous stench erupts on the miscast table. Everyone in short range must give ground or take -1d on their next test. All Frederick's fellowship tests are grim until he bathes. The miscast pool resets to 0. Spell 3. This time, improvised battle magic. He's going to create a force blast. So the concept is a concussive wave to smash against that ogre that's still over there. He's going to pick a category, a cardinal effect. Baseline is casting value 4, creation. He's going to hurl a burst of force at medium range, dealing 5 plus potency damage. Modifier, he wants long range instead, so that adds +2 to the casting value, so the casting value is 6 total. No other mods, keeping the risk manageable. Round 5. So begin the build roll. So he rolls a 9, a 6, a 2, and a 1. 2 successes. One die shows a 9, so miscast pool 1. Total successes so far, 2 out of 6. Round 6. Interrupted casting. Arrows pin him down. He uses his action to duck into cover, so he takes no casting test this round. Because he skipped a casting test while holding power, he adds 1 die to his miscast pool, which is now 2. Total successes remain 2 out of 6. Round 7. Surge and Backlash. So he rolls a 9, a 2, a 1, and a 2. 3 successes. 1 die shows a 9. The miscast pool is now 3. Total successes are 5 out of 6, still short, but the miscast triggers because 3 is greater than his level 2. He hasn't hit the casting value, so he must resolve the miscast now. Miscast roll, a 3, a 6, a 3, and a 2. That gets an 11 to 12. Arcane power spills forth. Frederick is staggered, and a minor lore-themed effect flickers nearby. A brief shockwave, a candle flares, that sort of thing. This result doesn't end the casting attempt, so he keeps his accumulated successes, which are 5. His miscast pool resets to 0. Round 8, finish it. He rolls a 2, a 7, an 8, a 6. That's 1 success, no 9s. Total, 6 out of 6. Finally over the line. Cast now, yes. Potency equals 1. Final roll. Resolve. The ogre takes 5 plus 1 equals 6 damage. He could have waited for it to finish for higher potency, but of course he would have risked another miscast. After the dust settles, if any miscast dice remained, Frederick could safely vent the lingering magic out of combat to empty the pool with no miscast, or spend a recover action mid-fight to reduce the pool by 1 per action. So to sum it up, magic in Warhammer the Old World is a dangerous balancing act. Every spell is a gamble between power and control, and even the mightiest wizard is one unlucky roll away from detonating themselves. And that wraps up today's dive into Warhammer the Old World RPG's magic system. Remember, every spell is a gamble, every roll a risk, and the winds of magic don't forgive mistakes. Whether you're hurling fireballs or weaving subtle enchantments, play smart or be ready for the consequences. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more deep dives into tabletop RPGs, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next episode. If you have questions or comments, please drop those below. And as always, thanks for watching. See you next time.